Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a mod stream. I am a crow, and today I will be working on some stuff. Very vague, I know. We'll be checking in with the polls, maybe making a couple of new ones, maybe working on some concepts, but primarily speaking, the next 2.5 to 3 hours are going to be dedicated to working on a map. Yeah, I already found it, Ilya, a while back. Somebody actually linked it to me. I don't think I'll be able to use any of the graphics in it. At least I found a YouTube video of it. I didn't find the actual mod itself. All right, so what are we doing next? We are going to jump pretty much straight into it today. I will open up my map. Oh yeah. The working title was Heat Death. That certainly won't be the case for very long. So this is where we left off earlier. We placed down a couple of bases. I'm not 100% sure if these will be the actual starting locations of the players or not, but it seems okay enough. Again, I want this map to feel cramped in a... Well, I want the map to feel slightly claustrophobic intentionally in a way that doesn't like harm gameplay, but just encourages like a maybe 40-minute max game time or something. So that's kind of my thought process. Whereas the only other example of a map that's kind of like that is the original draft of Z01, where it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Originally, it was set at 6 players here. And this base wasn't here, for example. And even with that base there, you can see it's very cramped. There's like not really that much space, right? And it's because the map size is pretty small. It's 160 by 128. Whereas obviously our map currently is 192 by 160. So we'll keep that in mind anyway. I'm going to jump into the polls real quick before I get lost. All right, so it looks like people didn't overwhelmingly vote either way on this one. However, they did. It looks like removing the structure indicator did work out, so that's fine. I'm going to remake the mausoleum poll because DF sent me an alternative to Memorial Tomb, so I'll go ahead and do that. This one is 50-50 after 50 votes, which means I've got to make the decision, I suppose. So that's fine. Okay, so let's first do the another round for the cybernetic score. Okay. I think my main issue with describing this one was that I couldn't really figure out exactly how to describe. Yeah, I wasn't exactly 100% sure what I was going to do with that one, but we'll see. How would I describe this? This is like a memorial site for a warrior that was buried elsewhere. Okay, that should be fine, I guess. There you go, post. Just go ahead and drop this in the HYDRA channel on the server as well. What's up, Terran Dominion? Welcome. Hope you're doing well. All right. So, Watchdog and Warden at 50-50. I do like Terran Watchdog, to be honest. You'll have to tell me specifically which maps you mean. Obviously, this one's not finished, so I can't really tell you if that would be the case, but... Watchdog, Warden. I guess I'll go for Watchdog. I don't mind that. TBH. So I guess we'll just jump in here. We would say find in files, missile turret, Watchdog, match case. Okay. And then obviously the only thing we need to worry about is renaming the file itself to Watchdog. And then in weapons, Watchdog missiles. Okay. Yep. And then if I look at the Talos or the Mason, yeah, it's called Watchdog. Nice. I guess the only other thing I'll do real quick is obviously add in or notes. All right. No. Watchdog is the renamed. It's the new name for the missile turret. I guess we'll close the map editor as a matter of fact because I'm going to need to go in and change it here. Not even sure if Watchdogs actually do require the command center. It doesn't look like it. This can probably be deleted. All right, close that. So I know that they have, compared to the original, the Watchdog has. First day with a new pair of hands, apparently, judging by all the fucking typos I just made. It's okay. So we'll say +1 armor. And I think it's +2/5 minerals. I don't remember if there's anything else. All right, let me hit new and then missile. So it looks like we've got 75 and 0 armor. Take a look at. Oh yeah. So that is actually something. Okay. Happy anniversary, homie. So this is in. The other thing here is technically this can be transported, right? So that's one of the key distinctions. So I think that's it. Add new fields for Watchdog. All right, we'll go ahead and pull that. Should be good enough. Watchdog. I guess technically it should also have the note that it has a new ability set or whatever, because it has the liftoff where it didn't before, or it will have liftoff. Dude, the liftoff for the missile turret might be really complicated. I didn't think about that until just now. Holy moly. All right. So if we jump in to I'll quickly take a temperature check as far as the remaining things to rename go. I've got the cybernetics core poll up there that I redid. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if the Terra names actually need to be renamed or not, the more I think about it. So I was just thinking, like, what would you even call Command Center to be different? I guess it isn't really that. It's military lingo, so it's not that far removed from the cost. I don't know. Maybe it's not worth going down the route of trying to rename some of this shit. It is pretty, like, whack. Like, I could see Science Facility and Engineering Bay being renamed, but Command Center and Supply Depot, they kind of feel all right. I don't know. If I think of something, I'll put something in there. The real question is, obviously, I have no idea what to do about Extractor. People were saying I should just rename the buildings to be fucking impossible, just like all the unit names. Well, the thing is, Outpost is pretty much the same thing as Command Center, right? Except it's even less. It doesn't tell you. It tells you even less about what the unit's role is. So with Command Center, I know it's likely some central structure, and that's what it is. It's a town hall, but nobody. Like, you don't get a feeling of really much value, all that much value. I feel like from what I'm saying is, it doesn't really give you that much of a thematic or any sort of reinforcement of any sort of theme beyond Command Center being sort of linked to military jargon. Like, I was thinking of Planetary Post or something, because at least then you got that alliteration, but that still doesn't really tell you much aside from Command Center. Like, it might even tell you a little less, because a planetary post could be literally any structure that's on the surface of the planet, whereas a command center has to be like a command center, right? A center for command. So, yeah, I don't know. That is kind of a tough one. And the same goes for Supply Depot, although there's probably a way that you can have a more interesting name than that. But as far as Extractor goes, I'm not 100% sure what I would even rename it to. I know Extractor and Spawning Pool and Zergling all need to be renamed. Hello, Poundslegrin. You vote to keep it as a command center? Yeah, and that's kind of what I was thinking, is like, if there's maybe if there are like a series of things that I haven't thought about this until very recently, but if there's a name that's serviceable, but we might have an alternative that's better, then maybe one of the poll options is just to keep it like normal. Whereas I haven't needed to for the posts that I've put up so far, because all of the polls are terrible. Like, all of the original names are pretty bad, right? Like, Missile Turret's pretty generic, so at least it's okay. But like, you can do better. I can come up with better ones. The Cybernetics Core is pretty bad, especially since it doesn't even mean the same thing for Hydra anymore, since it unlocks the Hierophant instead of the Dracodon. So yeah, there's just not much there, you know? Actually, like a requisition center or something might even make sense for command center, but still, it's like it's actually adding more syllables or whatever, so not sure if worth. All right, so close that out. Jump in here and finish renaming missile turret and all the internal sides of things. And I think that's it, to be honest. Oh, actually, that is a good point that I didn't realize. Obviously, we have to go in here and rename missile turret to watchdog. Okay. In theory, we should be fine to just dump this in. Oh yeah, I forgot we renamed building. All right. Okay. So we just need to copy this over into this unit def, and then I think we'll be all right. I can close this as well. All right. All right. I wish I could get rid of this recent thing. I don't know why it's even there. I mean, I know why it's there for people who have a ton of stuff, but I don't. So it would be nice to toggle that off. So with that in, I think we can pretty comfortably move on to getting some work done on the map. I was thinking of maybe there's some other more polls we could throw together, but nothing's coming to mind. So rather than force it or whatever, we'll just make it happen. So one of the things I wanted to get done in this map that I'm not sure how extensively I talked about the previous time, because it has been a while since I've opened up this map and looked at it, is I want to show off the Nidus Trinity. That's actually who the players will be playing as. And this will be like optional co-op or whatever. So I'm thinking that means we should probably pick colors. Decide, you know, what kind of colors we've got going on. Let's take a look here. Of course, this is where I don't know what breaks Imgur. I don't know if it's like a script or something from Grease Monkey or whatever. There's something that breaks Imgur anyway. I wonder if it still breaks in. Yeah, it still breaks in private tab as well. So I have no idea. Basically, I need to open this page up in Firefox. Unfortunately, pretty annoying. All right. So I was thinking something in the dark side of things, like this is kind of interesting. I have to keep in mind this is on the desert tile set, so it would be pretty shite for this to be your color. Like, particularly because your ally wouldn't be able to tell. Like, okay, I can make the in theory, if it's played in single player, it doesn't matter what they're, like, it doesn't. That's not like the main issue, right? But I know that minimap color would be a problem. So, yeah. What else do I got here? I was thinking of. Oh, we could do this. I don't know if this minimap color would also be an issue. I think like oranges and browns are really hard to find on this tile set, right? I have a feeling I'm like wanting to grab like the worst possible colors. Hmm. All right. Well, let's see how they look on the minimap when I'm working in editor view. So yeah, we've got the Nidus Trinity as the player's force in that respect. The Hikatan refugees are going to be a little bit interesting because they are going to be a little bit less coordinated and easier to isolate than you might expect. So for those guys, I actually don't know what colors would fit them both or best. I would think some sort of green, like I think that makes the most sense. And then when we have the divine primacy, I'm guessing like some sort of really royal yellow or blue or something might be quite effective in that respect. So we could just have straight up like, I think there was like Aralide and yeah, maybe Aralide and Brass would actually be fine. What was Aralide anyway? 55. We'll try those. Let's see, these are, oh, actually, this is the wrong one. So 63, 55. Snap these into computers. And then, yeah, I was thinking some sort of green. So we can have like a dark green and a very bright green. And then maybe like a... All right, let's try 17. Oops, that's not what I want to do. 17. Where's Celadon? 27. I guess we'll try that one. Obviously, it is somewhat difficult to shadow box this without. Jesus. Yeah, I can't even see the start location of the main guy. That's pretty funny. That probably won't be possible to fix, unfortunately. But if I had to shadow box that one, I would say that definitely needs to be changed. But you know what would be a really handy mechanic is being able to change the minimap color of a color on a per tile set basis, or like even a per map basis, so that it's easier at a glance to take a look at them. And maybe even give the player the opportunity to change that on their end as well. That's something to note down for the new engine, I think. I think I have a list of shit somewhere that I wanted to. Yeah, what was I gonna say? This is minimap selection choice per map, maybe even per player. Like, all right. If I don't write shit like this down, it'll never get done appropriately. So this is obviously kind of like negative space over here. I'm not really sure what the wisdom is of keeping that way. All right, what I kind of want to do is run the resources along this little ledge. Give a little bit of space for missile room, for like watchdog room or whatever turret room. And then ideally there would be a ramp right down here that would give almost instantaneous access to your resources, but is mostly up to your ally whether or not they can hold. So it's like a nice little incentive for you to play nicely in that respect. So let's see what we can do about that. So obviously we want to leave enough room for missiles, for turrets on either side. Maybe even some maneuverability. What is this anyway? We probably want like 9 or 10, if I had to guess. Alright, that's where we want to put our town center. It does look a little artificial, but maybe that's fine. We'll pretty it up later. And then obviously, let me break out the brush palette. Obviously need to find myself some ramps. These are named in very unfortunate manners. Figure out some blend for that later in Photoshop. Yeah, we do have to kind of zigzag here, don't we? Maybe we just don't. All right, let me drop the initial units over here. The other thing is I have to decide how many, like, how much pre-placed stuff I want on this map. Because this will be a very strange map in terms of side selection, where you have, obviously, you've got some sort of, the logic is you have some sort of pre-established presence. The primacy are going to come in with a reasonable starting force, but they won't arrive in the map until a little bit late. Or maybe their first player is in the map at the beginning, and then their second player arrives late. I'm not 100% sure how I want that to play out yet. But I think the strongest initial players on the map probably should be the human player and the Zerg ally, which might also be human if you're playing at co-op. And maybe you've already got one Hekaton refugee camp has already arrived with a decent amount of, like, reasonable amount of forces, where it would be very expensive and micro heavy for you to defeat them. Like maybe it's this one in the top middle that arrives first. And then I would imagine this guy down in the bottom right would arrive next, followed by one of the Protoss, followed by the last of the Terrans, followed by the second Protoss. That's my initial logic. It is kind of weird because you wouldn't have anybody to target initially besides, you'd only have one player to target initially, basically. But I feel like in theory that could work out in a number of really interesting ways. The main concern from a design perspective is that obviously it would suck quite a lot to lose out on just basic shit. Like it would suck to lose out on the opportunity to have AI that are actually active and contending with the player, just because like the player essentially rushes down their start location and builds a bunch of shit or whatever to like kind of cheese it. But the punishment there is not stopping the player from being able to do that, in my opinion. It's making it so that that's very expensive and dangerous because of the presence of other AIs on the map. So if you invest a bunch of resources and time and action into, say, rushing down this guy and locking his start location down, then like this guy will fortify or the Protoss will show up or something like that. You know, where there's some other action that you're missing out on when you make that decision. So yeah, I don't know how that is going to work out exactly. The other thing I don't know too much about is whether or not it'll even be realistic or possible for me to get AI to consistently work by way of arriving in the middle of battle and then having a script start running. So that's more of a logistic, like technical thing that I've got to figure out, but it is something that I am like committed to doing anyway. All right. I don't really know how I want to set up the base over here because this would be the only way into this side from the middle, which does feel a bit odd. Like it's It's not the most defensible position ever, but it's defensible enough in theory. I can't believe we don't have like a... I definitely have some reasonable rampling that's one tile less. I don't exactly remember where I may have used it though. It might have been in a map crab. Looks like this is one such. Here we go. Well, it's facing the wrong way is the only issue. Fook. I don't think I used it anywhere else. Oh, here we go. Maybe. No, never mind. It's the other way. Well, I sort of know which tile to look for now, at least. If that tile even exists on the right side, that's the other problem here. It may not. Oh, it does. There we go. It's definitely not nearly as smooth as I initially thought it might be, but whatever. Ramp established. It's kind of lame that this is like so... They're almost exactly lined up, right? Like, not quite, but... I don't know, I'll think about that. Maybe I throw like an asphalt ramp in one of these positions or something. So the other thing before I go further with the initial base construction is I do want to get some work done for like essentially how these areas blend in with one another and like where these go. So I would like this little pathway we've got coming down from this incomplete bridge that goes past this double gas. This pathway right here should lead, like, basically all the areas that I've selected that have turned blue or whatever should probably be an open pathway. So there should just be a nice open line from, if you wanted to take a sizable force, you should be able to go across this bridge, down here, and all the way down to the Zerg main, or even to this green main down on the bottom right, or something like that. And I wouldn't want that to be closed off, which would mean we probably want some sort of like initial border or whatever. And like maybe this gets replaced with compound or something later on. But the main idea is that we at least initially have some border to work with. And so... This does mean as well that if I decide to put a natural down here on the low ground for this guy, the idea would be to facilitate that without essentially locking out the any army rotates, right? So essentially what I'm getting at is I don't want... Yeah, sure, we'll just leave that way, actually. I don't want there to be a situation where, because somebody took this base that's very close to their starting location, you can't path around it. Which doesn't mean I necessarily want this to be like I don't want to do this and have the base be up top, but still this pathway down here. I don't want it to delineate it that way. I might have like some bits and pieces like in the middle or whatever, right? I might have something like this. But aside from messing around like that, then like there's not going to be a massive thing that completely cuts this in half. So I just have to be careful with the placement, I guess, of the resources. And there's also the innate assumption that whatever resources are down here can afford to be put up against the cliff wall or the ledge or whatever, just the cliff itself. They can afford to be placed there precisely because it's not like a situation where you can get harassed from the north like this, which is why I've left turret room back here, and or like over here where there's like, okay, there's a bit of turret room over here and stuff. Actually, this might even be this is okay to be harassable in my opinion because it's double gas. There's like a lot of utility in that, so you should actually be holding on to that. But the main idea is that if an air army engages over here to this mineral line, you have a chance. You can have placed some defenses over here. Like maybe it's not even enough space, and we should expand that a little bit. But yeah, the main calling card anyway is that there should be room for you to do that. You don't need to have that same rule applying over here because the player who is intended to take this base is one of the players that have already start off with this area in their control. If an enemy wants to take this base, if they're even in a position to consider taking that base, they've probably killed this player already. In which case, they've got the area in theory. So we don't have to worry about that to the same degree. Whereas obviously in a main that can get harassed from across like Tar or whatever, or in the case of like this base, which could get harassed by air from the south. I've left some room over here to sort of deal with that, or to assist with that anyway. That's also where like base layouts and stuff will help for the AI, but we'll get there when we get there. So I'm thinking a Zerg-ish natural could go over here, and again, following the same rules, we would want to leave turret room there. The Terran-ish natural would be over here. This could also be the Zerg third, although I imagine their third will probably be like, because their main will probably be like down here in this area where the sand is. There's also a pretty strong chance I have a base. Yeah, there's a pretty high chance actually that I have like maybe a low mineral double gas or something to that effect base over here that either one of these players could take and get a decent amount of utility out of. I want to experiment with having more frequent double gases now that Hydra's tech tree is cemented as like requiring gas in general more than vanilla would. So that'll be an experimentation that I do in this map. I don't know if it'll actually stick, if it'll end up being something that we desperately needed this whole time, and at that point I'll just feel foolish for not having done it sooner. But you know how it is. Maybe it's just a horrible end result, or I find out it's actually enabling bad play or something. But realistically, until we get like the selection extenders in, I don't see how you can keep your minerals low with the current outfits that we have. The current mineral layouts do not allow this. All right. That should all be pathable. I'll have to obviously do a test to make sure that this is fine. I think I've adjusted the collision boxes for all of the gas structures to be identical so that you don't have that stupid thing where like building an assimilator makes certain terrain unpathable. So all right, so again we need to make sure we're respecting the missile turret slash, well, really, just mobility requirements of this area. I was going to put these right up against the ramp. However, that will actually stop you from being able to move down the ramp and up here if you need to with like ground units or something. But don't want to do that. But it's all right. Was kind of digging that placement, but obviously this is where we have to balance like how much space do we want to make available for defense and mobility and whatnot. The other thing, by the way, that this creates, it does incentivize drops because you have more space to play with yourself. Whereas, like, maybe there's, I don't know, maybe not really because you can just build anti-air defenses and stuff over there. But it was something that I just thought of now. I was like, oh, kind of does. Gives you more room to play with. The other thing that's going to be kind of annoying here is that I do want to facilitate creep spread, but I obviously also want to make use of the crevice doodads, which they do block creep because they're unbuildable. So I will have to keep that in mind. All right, I think we've gotten some reasonable bases now. How many mineral fields is that anyway? It's 9. Okay, that just so happened to be even between the two players. The other question is whether or not I want a southern ramp down here. I'm not really sure that I do. I feel like this is actually really easy to hold if you just put some units up here. And maybe the southern ramp offsets that so that units could, in theory, come straight up here or they could go around and come up. But an AI would never really do that last part, so I don't know how frequently it would even come into play. I feel like if enemy units are in the late game or mid game, even like 10 minutes in or whatever, if enemy units are here or down here, you may have already lost because that means you lost whatever base you had up here. Presumably, you would have some presence over there. Like, this is a really important choke point to hold, right? So yeah, that's just some thought that I had. I feel like the primacy are likely to throw units at you, mostly through the middle, and then maybe if green dies down in the bottom right, then yeah, you would get some units on the right. And sure, one of them will have like a ton of air units, I'm certain. So that maybe that's less of a problem. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. Jesus. What is wrong with some people? Did I ever do the asphalt? It doesn't look like I did asphalt edge for higher dirt in the palette. Maybe I can rectify that. We'll call this asphalt edge dirt 2. Actually, it would be less mouse travel if I put it on the screen, and you guys get to see what I'm actually doing. So that's a win-win right there. One of the things that I really am holding out hope for is the ability to rename elements. Please, please, SI, allow us to rename this stuff. So frustrating that if I make a typo or whatever, I just have to delete it. I can't even change the order, so it's not like I can like move this one up here, for example, to the left or whatever. Nope. Nothing. In Brood War, you get nothing. The fact that I have to do this at all, to be honest, is pretty psychotic. Like, I can't just define new terrain types. But this beats the hell out of manually selecting tiles, I'll tell you that much. I used to have to do this in this fashion, just like select it and then place it, and obviously that's even more error prone. Would be nice if it kept my name as well or something, so I didn't have to retype it every time. I think, honestly, this is how you know that whoever made this tool, obviously in this case it's SI, never actually used it, because this is so unwieldy, and if he ever used it for any length of time, he would realize all of the errors with it himself. Like, he wouldn't need other people to report it. And I guess whoever he asked for testing and impressions didn't give him the right fucking answers, clearly. Or maybe there's like a third option here, which is he got the right answers and just didn't fucking bother it. Because he programs for a full-time job, so the last thing he wants to do is program more when he's homo. Alright, we're saving this over, and now we get to do what I wanted to do, which is slap this stuff together here. Give us a nice little plaza. Alright. There you go. All that for that, but at least we can do it a lot faster next time. Alright, the question is, do I want to continue crafting this bottom area, or do I want to move on to maybe working on the bottom right instead of the bottom left? I kind of want to fix these, or like finish the Zerg main, but that does raise the question as to whether or not I throw compound down here. It would be kind of funny if like the compound was where the Zerg were. Just like, obviously the Terrans are up there somewhere else, so I think that is kind of funny to me. But say add high asphalt. There you go. Yeah, all right. Let's slap some compound together over here. The question also is like, I think this outline might be a little too egregious, to be honest. Let's just get the straight line done, because we can obviously stack compound. Oh no, actually, I'm not sure if I have that, to be honest. But maybe we do something like this. And then yeah, this is where it would really pay to have this moved up slightly. Like by 2 maybe. There we go. So I'm thinking I want a ramp down here, right? And then north facing ramp up there whenever we get those. Forgot we actually don't have those. This is obviously where the resources will be allocated. And then all right. I'm not actually sure if I want this to be sandy. I have dirt versions, but they do take a little bit more time to place, obviously. Maybe it's fine. Still trying to keep track of the whole minimap color situation. It's quite difficult. All right. Not sure if I'm a crazy fan of this architecture. Mostly this like left side area, I think probably can just be. Maybe we just axe this entirely. Then it looks like a little bit more like an actual compound, I think. It's got some sort of implied purpose. Obviously, it's kind of a shame that we can't have this be pathable terrain around it, but it's all right. And then obviously we want to do something a bit different with this area. Don't think I have versions of Dirt Cliff that blend with sand dunes, which would actually be quite thematic, TBH. Would be quite difficult to get the ramps looking good, though. Alright, I'll come back to that a little bit later. Let's just get the Zerg taken care of. Okay. In theory, that should work out fine. We don't even need to like artificially separate these because thankfully the resource area calculator worked as intended. If you can believe that. Oh, well, isn't that shit? I don't think we have an extended version of this anyway, so it wouldn't even matter. I'll definitely... Man, we're running into limitations with the tile set pretty early on in map development. Hopefully, that's not going to cost us too much here. Do kind of want to be assholes to these AI Terrans. Make them play with quite a disadvantage positionally. But I don't know. We'll see. So this is a bit of an issue where they don't have too much defensibility in terms of being attacked by or harangued by air units or something, but not sure if it's that big of a deal, to be honest. Like, not really that much space that the air units would even be able to exploit, I don't think. Oops. Okay. I nearly forgot. Let's drop the Zerg units. What's up, Wuck? Yeah, that's a working title. It won't be the final one. TBH. All right. You fucker! Blizzard destroying my fucking layouts before they've even had time to imagine the reality they could have lived in. What do we got here? I think it's this one and this one that are the offenders. Move this back then. All right. That's pretty epic. Pretty epic layout, IMO. Instead of heat death, what if it was cuck death? Have you considered that one? The cuck death of the universe would truly be over then. Yeah, obviously. It would have to be installation. Installation. Maybe it would have to be space platform. American college campus. The tile set would just be like a bunch of gray tiles that don't have any character to them whatsoever because that would be racist or something. I can't believe that people are actually claiming that showing your work in math class is racist. I mean, I should be able to believe it, to be honest. It is the current year, but it just feels so whack. How have they done this? Oh, this gas placement is actually quite shite. For the Zerg. From my homies, the Zerg here. Alright, don't look at me like that. Why does this tile suck? Even that's not acceptable, to be honest. I think there's only like 2 variations. No. I'm not talking about like doing work. It literally, there's like that meme where you do a math problem and the teacher tells you to show your work. That would be like something they would harp on me a lot for, because I was able to do like basic math in my head, and apparently that was too suspicious. So they thought I was like using a calculator or something because I didn't show my work. Like, I get the function of it. I understand why it's like that, or why it's generally a good thing to show your work or whatever. I'm not even just like disagreeing with the premise. I just mean that that is something that people said, and then uh, now it's like white privilege or something to show your work, to say show your work. But it's the same. It's like there's a bunch of lunatics who think that like being correct is somehow racist. Just being factual. And I'm not saying this in like a really ridiculous like being factual about something that's controversial or whatever. I don't even mean that. I literally just mean like these people disagree with the basic idea of facts, that anything can even be true. More like you, to be honest. Yeah, maybe that's why. I don't know. Can't believe they're relaunching their Kickstarter. Cockstarter! There's some famous quote out there where it's like, I have only just begun to bleed, or something like that. It's not, I have no time to bleed. There's something else that's like, there's some line where it's, I've only just begun something related to bleeding or dying or something. Or you have only just begun to die. I don't know. It's some line anyway, but I just imagine, I have only just begun to cuck. And then you just hear UD Commander zooming in the whole time with his cuck. What's up, Veek? I had to say that very loudly so that you knew it was you. Yeah, I know that's not the quote, but there is, I don't know what it is. It's like, I have only begun, or I have not yet begun, something like that. I don't know. You have not yet begun to suffer. It's so fucking vague that I can probably use it for like an epic moment, and then one guy from who plays my campaign will be like, "Hey, that's stolen from this movie." I'll be like, "Fuck! It was. I didn't just imagine it." It could also just be like some stupid line my father said in a Dungeons and Dragons game or something. So, who knows? Okay. Whatever song I'm just listening to did a J.J. Abrams just now. Pretty scary. Oh, fuck. Did it again. Well, Viker, are you ready to play as Terran inside Zerg here? This map is Terran and Zerg here. It's you guys against the world, homie. You're playing as the Nidus Trinity. this conversation is special, but this is pretty. Jeez. All right, so far we've got pretty reasonable setups. I have to decide what I want to do with this bottom left-hand corner, and obviously I need those north-facing ramps at some point, but I guess for now I can mark where they will end up being. There you go. There's your fucking ramp. Placeholder anyway. All that matters is that the units will move up it, just like in Kakadu Port. Okay, so I am going to take a quick break because I got to get my water in order since I drank it all, as per usual. We have Zerg. Pretty epic. There you go. Zerg. And we have Terrans. We have starting base for some other lunatic. And we have nothing else yet. So 3 out of 7 players have their starting areas taken care of, because 3. And we'll figure out what we're doing with the rest of the map, I guess, when I come back. So here we Yo, yo, yo. Back, homies. Let's see what I missed. What a fucking disaster. All right, moving on. Back to reality. Oh, you. The bait and switch, obviously. Got him. Everybody thought I was going to make good on it. You were all wrong. How does it feel? How does it feel? I have some Mesk line somewhere where he goes, "Why is it you?" That's a pretty good one. Gotta slap that up somewhere. I think that we may have achieved something pretty nice here. Okay. What I want to do, I just realized something that it would be, I think anyway, I'll float this idea. Anybody in the chat can tell me if they think differently. I think it would be pretty nice to have, it would be somewhat thematic to have an AI arrive on the planet with like a reasonably high tier set of starting units. Like, imagine if this guy, for example, since he is in a very indefensible position and surrounded on all sides and backed into a corner, maybe he is the AI that shows up to the fight with like a decent roster of units. And as he arrives, he's got like 2 centaurs or something, and as well as like some other shit backing him up, like on the ground. I think that could be pretty neat, actually. Obviously, another thing about this is that since they're Terrans, it's not like Zerg arriving where you can just have a bunch of Ovoleths or whatever in the background. These guys would need to, as they're setting up their starting command center, they would need some of their Masons to build some depots pretty early on, actually. And that would be somewhat interesting. So I don't know. I just think that would be really thematic if you happened to show up there as they arrived, and they're like, you think, oh, they just showed up here, and then that these refugees have managed to escape whatever conflict they were coming out from with a couple of centaurs. Could be pretty epic. RMO. I wonder what the Protoss show up with. One of them definitely shows up with like a fully loaded Solarian or something. Do I still have that other map open? I do. Nice. Oh. Dad has been updated. Okay. It's a well-timed laugh that may or may not have gotten onto the camera. The camera, the mic, the you, the me. So what do you make of the idea anyway, Viker? Were you listening when I was talking about it? I know you were very focused on Dad. I was trying to think of a more witty name for a channel for testing Dad than Dad testing, but that is pretty simulation by itself. So Okay, so let me clear my mouth here. So the trick with this map is that I intend to have most players, most AI players, arrive after the map has begun. I think there will be one Terran player on the map, probably this upper middle guy, that will be there at the beginning. Very early on, like within the first minute or so, you'll have an AI arrive in the bottom right. And then there will be one Protoss arriving, the last Terran arriving, and the other Protoss arriving. I don't know how early on any of these are. Like, I don't have really any major plans for this, right? So, I guess what we could do is we could say like, oh, whatever. We'll just open up the file here. So we'll say, so this map is what? Let's see. I think it's 192 by 160 or something. Yeah. Just remembered something. Okay. So I've started to write some of this stuff up here. So obviously, the main things we don't know about are the This would be heat, death. Yeah, we don't know the starting conditions for like at what point some of these players will arrive. And then general. Let's finish on this map. I forget how you spell belligerence. Ah, it's with an E. Okay. Let's see if I can find it this way. Well, yeah, it can. It's called, that's our continuum, like drop in, drop out idea, right? Where we have the procedurally generated terrain and whatnot. Because like most people, I imagine, who would play in that would not be there at the beginning, and probably wouldn't be there at the end either. That'll be really neat. All right, so I've written down some things about this. I'm not 100% sure about the whole thing all told, but it does feel like this is, it feels like all these are possible. And the other concern, of course, is whether or not, like, the... bloodletting campaign speaker. Oh, there were probably multiple iterations of Dad running or something when it was doubling up earlier. You should run 3 iterations of Dad so that we can get 3 responses every time we aim on. Or you could maybe you could make him count the instances of Metzen words. And if it's a Metzen word, if there's a Metzen word in the sentence. So if I type void aim on Todd, well, Todd isn't a Metzen word, but you get the idea. That would be epic. I just imagine an ocean of that's 3, that's 3, that's 3. All right. Anyway, let's go back to this. Snap back to map design. So obviously there will be a base in the bottom left. I just don't know exactly where it will be or how that will look like. We'll save that for later. It would be nice to start carving out the top, like the uppermost area. We do have a little bit of an idea of what this is going to look like, obviously. So I guess that'll be a ramp in theory. Excuse me. Apologies for the yawn. Yeah, so this was something I was thinking about earlier. I think the main counter to the player cheesing the landing sequence. So first of all, the landing sequence is going to be protected by the fact that there's going to be starting military there. So, like I was saying earlier, this green guy, when he arrives, is probably going to... I'm not sure what personality he's actually going to be, but my thought process is this guy realizes probably the best place he can land to keep space for his allies or whatever is down here. And he also realizes this is pretty close to the Zerg. At this point, the protoss won't have arrived yet. And he's also going to arrive fairly early on. So I don't think that you'll be able to cheese this guy. Even if you did, it would require a huge amount of cooperation with you and your AI ally, or not your potentially AI ally. You basically can't do this in single player, is what I'm thinking. I think you would need to have a human ally instead, which is possible. This will be a co-optional map in that sense. However, the main crux of this is that this guy's going to show up with like 1 or maybe 2 centaurs, as well as a decent number of units on the ground as soon as like he arrives, right? That's kind of the thinking that I'm having is... this guy will show up with pretty high tier units. That doesn't mean he can build more. If you destroy them, then he's still fucked. But you'll have to get through that in order to handle that. And to that extent, I actually will probably have some things pre-placed for the human players in that sense, right? The Trinity players will probably have some pre-placed things. Because they are supposed to have this area, like this is supposed to be their base of operations to some extent. Not at a massive scale where you have like a fully stocked base or whatever. But you'll probably have like maybe a barracks, or maybe even a scrapyard in a world where that gets implemented or something. I could see that being the case. And as well as like you'll probably have your refinery, you'll probably have like 2 depots maybe, and some starting military forces. And the Zerg will probably have something similar where they'll have like 2 or 3 Ovaleths and maybe like a spawning pool if they're going for that. I'm not sure what personality I want your ally to be. So the main idea is that that's kind of what we're looking at here is like a mild amount of pre-placed things, and the idea is that this guy's going to have some pre-placed things up here, and this guy is going to be showing up about a minute in with maybe a centaur or two and having to build up from scratch, but having a decent bank. Like he'll probably have 1,000+ minerals to start with so that he can get his command centers and some early depots, some other stuff. This is like actually going to be a one-off, I think, Chucks. This is not meant for the campaign necessarily, but right. I'm not 100% sure how that's even possible. The other thing is that it's very unlikely to make manifest because look at the distances between these guys. Like, this is something I did try to get done in the remake of Inconsummate's first map, where I had the Terrans start to set up defensive blockades in front of where the Protoss were arriving. There were a lot of moving parts in that one though. So, and I found it quite hard to remain motivated to work on essentially a glorified 1v1 that turns into a more exciting map later on. But yeah, this is an actual like custom scenario as opposed to it's still melee style in the sense that you're up against AI, and like I don't even know what people think. Like people say that like my style is too melee centric or whatever. I'm not really 100% sure what that means though. Like people who are not fans of the style sort of have that approach or that thought process. But I'm not really, yeah, I can't really put together what exactly turns them off about gameplay where you play an RTS. Like if they think that the difference is, oh, you've got a starting base. If they really think that that's the difference, then well, when they play this, they are going to be in for a rude awakening because I don't care what your starting conditions are, you're going to have to actually play the game. You really wanted a map where you can't deploy your own units until like 10 minutes in. What the fuck? Well, I don't know why you controlling an ally is even a thing though. Like, doesn't that just mean I'm confused by that one. Yeah, unfortunately, there is a gimmick in every single fucking campaign, but like people might even consider the idea of AI arriving partway through a map to be a gimmick. But what obviously separates a gimmick from a feature or a gimmick from a mechanic is consistency. And this is something that I want to happen fairly consistently. It may not happen in every mission, but there will be a considerable number of missions. I would say the majority of missions in any campaign I produce would have AI arriving halfway through the map or partway through the map. As well as they would also have this sort of idea where you have different starting conditions depending on the situation at hand or whatever. Well, it's pretty gimmicky to not be able to build your own stuff. Like I'm wondering why you're controlling an AI instead of just controlling your own Like, why are they just if you're controlling them, then I figured that they should just be owned by you. Like, they just defer to your commands directly, so they are owned by you. Actually, I guess if it's like a consistent mechanic where you have some say over what, like, if you have shared control of your allies' forces or whatever, so that you could like take some of their men to reinforce a flank or tell them to, like, encourage them to go like be aggressive or something. I don't know, but at that point, it does feel a little weird that you're like managing them. It feels like what would you call it? What it feels like to me is a stopgap for competent AI because you need to control them yourself in order to make them helpful. That's what where my mind goes anyways. Like, we can't make the players AI actually useful, so just let them control themselves. That's probably not what you were initially thinking, but that's just where my mind goes, unfortunately. So I've been dealing with shit AI for too long. Yeah, that's the other thing is if it just like randomly rockets back to them not being under your command at all, then it's even less consistent, right? All right, I guess I'll draw a road over here. All right, I'll just make this a bit quicker. TBH. Oh, you know, I just remembered actually. Another thing that people do commonly talk about is that the conditions for like essentially victory conditions. I feel like people do have a very reductive view of this as well, where they think that if you're destroying the enemy's base, then that's boring or something like that. I personally think that it doesn't really matter what your necessarily what your victory condition actually is, as long as in order to complete your mission, I don't have to do a gimmick and I do have to engage with my enemy. I think it's fine. So, for example, if your objective is to destroy a specific building, but in order to get to it, you have to wipe out a huge amount of the enemy's force, and ultimately you must defeat them in terms of playing an RTS in order to win, then I'm fine. I don't care. No problems. Because then you're still playing an RTS, so whatever story framing there is not that crazy. I don't know what you want SI to do about it. The issue is that Blizzard are lard coated their tiles. No, I mean you can like that's where you need proper like framing and setup for everything else in the setting, so that it makes sense when they decide when you have like a transmission at the end where somebody's talking about how they've got to fall back because they've sustained critical losses to infrastructure, or now that the now that the enemy can't pursue us, we can escape or whatever. Like if you do your work early on, it's pretty easy to have a satisfactory ending. The ending itself of defeating the enemy in game is a satisfactory enough ending most of the time. No, he can't do that. It's literally impossible, as far as I understand, to make custom isometry work. Like, not literally impossible, obviously, anything's possible with enough reverse engineering. But it's not like the code is there and he can just reuse it. As far as I know, it's impossible to do. That's what he's told me anyway. Maybe that's him lying just so that I stop bothering him, but I would expect that that's just the case. I do feel like most people are so far removed from like feeling like they're experiencing the story when they play a video game because most of the time it's just like force fed to you through cutscenes or whatever, like in BioShock, for example, or and on any of that stuff. It's like they sort of actually BioShock sort of has gameplay through or storytelling through gameplay, but it's just done in like a really asinine way, right? That's kind of the main issue there. It's like the story is I hate it. I dislike this story. That's the story. I'll have a piece that juts out there later on. One can never do the dad. What's up, Kian? How you doing? I'm glad Iskatu Head was reacted. Well, Veek, it's just like anything else. You don't improve by doing nothing. So if you're claiming to be a bad writer, then without sounding cringe, the only bad writer is the one who didn't fucking try. You know, who hasn't tried enough. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but that's how I would put it. It's like if you're willing to put in the effort to learn, then odds are you're good to go, man. Clearly, I have something wrong here. I think I'm missing a tile of some sort. Was this just improperly extended or something? Ah. The Ancient One. Yep. Oh, I see the issue. Pranked myself. Wonder how that one slipped my radar. All right, let's try that one again. Voila. Oh, listen, I'm not going to go to bat for SI. He's made a lot of really stupid decisions in that respect. I believe the reason that he's kept it closed source is actually related to the fact that he's had to call in favors from the Blizzard devs to share source code or something. I don't know if that's true or if I'm just misreading into some messages that he sent earlier on when I was discussing it. But he's also not necessarily obligated to, like, tell me why he's keeping it closed source, so I won't say anything there yet, but... Yeah, that is true. If we can somehow triangulate... I don't know, man. At the same time, I think we just keep waiting for Heinerman to finish his editor, and then eventually we'll be epic. Maybe he'll have something to say about that. I could ask him what he thinks about, like, defining modded tiles and isometry in that sense. I don't know if it's possible or not. But... All right, I got about a half an hour left, so I'll continue working on this. Yeah, these guys are the Nidus Trinity, the cult Zerg cultists or whatever from the campaign planning. This is just like a scenario for me to explore the setting a little bit. Now that I have essentially carte blanche to write whatever kind of exotic pairing I want. Like, I'm sure there will be some one-off that I do to explore the aspirants, whatever they were called. I forget what the actual name of the faction was, but it was something epic. The Futurist Federation. Oh wait, no, that wasn't it. The Golden Republic. There you go. The Futurist Federation is pretty epic, to be honest. Listen, man. Full disclosure, I am going off of old direct messages between SI and myself that may not even be accurate. So, like, maybe I'm misremembering what he said, but I'm pretty sure he said that it was not possible. Again, could just be that he wasn't interested in doing it. I don't know. I wanted to clear this up a bit. There we go. Fix the weirdness of the shape. Ah, what's up, Mr. UNS? Yeah, exactly, Kian. I'm glad you're thinking now. No, that wasn't impossible. That's just him being lazy. He still hasn't, as far as I know, he still has not. Let's go and fact check this. Fact check. Where is this? Oops. That's hallucinated power-ups. That's not what I wanted. Jump to download list. Fact check. Yep, fact check complete. He's almost in a whole year. He has yet to update this fucking thing. And the reason why this is notable, unless he's actually released, is this 0.911? What is this? This is just a date. What does this say? No. Wait. Oh yeah, no, this is a release. Yeah, okay. All right, never mind. Yeah, fact check. So, here's the thing. Over almost a year ago, I reported that it's kind of pointless that when you're in the tile set index and you select something, in addition to whatever you've selected, you also get the null tiles. And I was telling him it would make sense to omit the null tiles from the selection so that you could play stuff without having to clean up null tiles afterwards. And he said, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And then he said, like a week later or whatever, he's like, that will be added in the next version. Because he just like messaged me saying, like, I've added that feature, by the way. It'll be in the next version. That was almost a year ago, guys. And it's still not in there because he hasn't fucking updated. I don't know about the brush stuff, though. I don't think he was ever intending to do anything with those. I asked him for file format documentation so we could make a brush palette editor. And he said, I don't know. So, just fuck my shit up. Can you believe what happened after that fucking talk show with Thorin, UNS? It's ridiculous. I became an investigative journalist overnight. I don't even know how that's possible. Oh, I just remembered, actually. This is supposed to be double wide. Oops. The fuck? There we go. Ah, don't do that. But anyway, yeah, I agree with what Vic was saying earlier. It does really suck to have to put your tiles here, but at the same time, like, what are you gonna do, man? Gotta do what you're gonna do. Gotta you what you're gonna you. Yeah. No, you're not wrong there. Actually, I haven't kept up too much either. Not to that crazy extent, but it's been something comparable anyway. I just can't get invested in CS when it's online. Not nearly as much. When I'm commentating, it's a little bit different, but like obviously I'm invested in a game I'm literally watching unfold before my eyes. But it's not quite easy pickings, I'll tell you that much. Otherwise, like just as a fan or whatever. Or as a fan of the game specifically. Oh, good luck, homie. Yeah, I feel like just consuming a lot of the supplementary content out there, you can keep some idea of what's going on in your head, which is nice. what did I say I wanted to do earlier? I wanted to start fleshing this area out a little bit more. I did add the ramp, and then I fucking didn't do anything else. Les classiques, homie. I am noting that there's not really a huge, like, one thing that is missing from this map so far is an enormous, like, cliff compound or complex. So maybe that's how we bridge the gap here. Have you happened to shoot Heinerman a message at any point asking what it would be helpful for development if you could join in or something? I don't even know if you have the time to do that necessarily, but it just occurred to me that maybe he would appreciate some helpful homies. Yeah, believe it or not, Relog aren't even the ones who are paying them. It's Grid, and they've got all the money to supply the prize pool, so they certainly have the money to supply everybody else. Yeah, that's fair. I wouldn't want to download 6,000 gigabytes of shit either. 675,000,146,75,000. I'm just making up words now. That looks kind of cool. I'll keep it. I just lost my mind when I played that fucking Legacy of the Void mission. Yeah, you literally can. Good luck, homie. I do kind of like that too, Kian. This one is a little bit more like even Stevens in that respect, where you just like one Terran, one Zerg, and you've got 3 enemy Terrans that are allied, and then 2 enemy Protoss that are allied. But eventually, when we get really wacky with the side composition, you could be like a Terran and 2 Zerg up against like a Protoss, a Zerg, a Terran, on the same force or something. Some wacky stuff like that. I really want to dive into some more off the cuff, or not off the cuff, like off kilter matchups or whatever that are a little bit stranger in that respect. What's up, Iron Torch? Welcome to the last 3 plus 13 minutes of the stream. That's another 3. A 3 plus 3 plus 10. Which in and of itself is 3 times 3 plus 3 divided by 3. There's a lot of 3s. It's a good thing Loller Skates isn't in Twitch chat right now, because he would just start writing complex mathematical 3s to get 3. Actually, should we check in with the polls? Oh yeah, I should definitely get off this website. Cenotaph is winning, by the way. Did anybody change? Warden slightly won. Too bad I already renamed him to Watchdog. Idiot. Imagine thinking your vote matters. JK. That's another thing that you may have seen in those community discussions, either in the tweets or the Reddit threads, where they're like, "How is 35 euros a series low? I would accept half of that." Well, Kian, you are welcome to to write that code. It's a lot of work for just a fucking meme, but if somebody else does it, I will add it. Yeah, that's the main reason why I don't use the dad polls for the fuck Jesus. The dad polls for the unit renamings or whatever. I mean, I guess I could do both and then compare results or something if that would even be useful. Like maybe there would be like, oh, the Discord guys voted entirely this way, whereas YouTube was even split or something. I don't know. I'm not even really sure where I would put that poll. I guess I could put it in the constabulary, but I don't know. Like somewhere where it would get a decent amount of hits, where it's like there forever or whatever. But I don't know. I'll think about it. Maybe it happens. I guess I should probably migrate the poll for the. Actually, I haven't even looked at that. I guess that mapcrap poll, everybody voted overwhelmingly in favor of waiting to start. So. We had Mesk's troll vote for 3, and then 9 people voted for after. So I don't think I was one of them. So 8 other people voted for after. I don't think anybody wants to play mapcrap with a busted Hydra, which is fine. That makes sense. Yeah, and then have them like draw like a check mark or whatever. They can react. Check me, dad, or whatever. What is it? Is that what it is? Check me, dad. No, it's like check Todd or something. Wait, what is it? It is check underscore Todd. What the fuck? Why is my life like this? That's like my past self owning me in the present. That's like getting destroyed by myself, literally by myself. There's like a really poorly voice acted line of some. Oh, it's actually from Inconsummate. There's a really poorly voice acted line somewhere where it's my zealot voice, and I just go, "How is this possible?" And I just remember that very fondly because it's so like memeable. So you can just react to anything with that because it sounds real. It sounds like I'm trying to voice act, which is what I was doing, admittedly, but it's just goofy. Oh, I see. Yeah. Yeah, and that's another thing too. Is like if the reason was for something unrelated, then like UED Commander doesn't want to work up with Hydra in Mapcrap anyway, but he voted after because he thinks it's just better for most people to have Hydra, I guess. He put some argument in there about like it being better if it was fixed. Which so like even if people aren't interested in using Hydra for Mapcraps, then makes sense. Like that argument can and will likely check out. Speaking of checking out, I think I should probably actually fix this up. This is not working correctly. So I don't want it to be so close to this little cliff. I would like actual passage to happen over here. The other concern as well is that like, okay, the resources could be up against this cliff, or maybe they'll be up against this cliff to be a little bit easier for like defensibility to happen from the Protoss that are going to be on the right side. But then they could put like defensive structures over here and just like wabang them from afar. So I'm not sure how that will work out exactly. This will be like another area to fight over, I think. We'll probably have like a reasonable cliff or something on the high dirt that maybe there will be like an expansion that's like up against this or something. I don't know. It's really hard for me to decide like what I want to do with this base or whatever, but we'll see. I want to say like that will go down there, and then we'll just slap this stuff together here. How are we doing on alignment? Go ahead and put this up over there. Yeah, it's good. It's whatever. It'll work. What is this anyway? Player 4? This should actually be player 3. Who's player 3? Alright. What's up, Ikeware? It's not map crap time. I would have made an announcement and pinged people. Ikeware's just woken up from a fucking stupor. No, we're waiting for. I did a poll, and everybody overwhelmingly voted to wait to start map crap until after HYDRA's lag is fixed and that like weird portrait crash or whatever is fixed. Crow is making his map. Nah, this isn't for map crap. This is just I started this like last week. This is just a one-off to explore the new setting. We've got a Terran and a Zerg here, and then there will be a bunch of AI that arrive partway through the map. The color selection is not final. I don't think I'll get away with using I don't think I'll get away with with some of this stuff. With using these colors. It'll be impossible to look at on the minimap. So I'll have to think of something else for Trinity, maybe some lavender or something. Yeah, let's open up the color page. I got a couple minutes left, so just spend some time doing that. No, the null tile fix will never happen, as far as I know. It's certainly not within our control. That's not even relevant. That's just like a slight annoyance to placing tiles. The lag is something we don't even know what is causing it yet. So we still have to do research on that. It would be really weird if this was the map that could even be submitted. I don't think I'll have time to make anything substantial, but if people think that this map is epic, then yeah, whatever. We'll throw it in there. It's not very beginner friendly. But maybe that's the point. So I guess we could do like dark lavender and Tyrian. Oops, that's not what I wanted. I can see yeah, I don't think that's actually going to work. What's Japanese violet like? 97? I guess that's a little bit better. You'll never be playing against these guys, so it's actually okay if their colors are a little too similar on the minimap. So yeah, that's fine. None of Starcraft is beginner friendly. That is true, yeah. There's basically this contest being run by a guy, a YouTuber, who has this sort of reputation for being... Like, he's played the game for a while, but he's also played a lot of other RTS games, so it's not like his skill set is necessarily mastered towards one title in particular. But when he plays Brood War, which is obviously a game where if you're up against a competent opponent and you're not competent yourself, you just die, he will often approach it in a very like cavalier fashion. From what I've seen, I haven't actually watched any of his content in years. The last time that he was playing something, in order to defeat like a mission that was moderately difficult, he had to essentially like remain completely silent and like not even he couldn't put any effort towards commentary because he had to focus entirely on playing, which is fine. Like we're not all gods at the game. Obviously, I'm pretty bad at the game too, but that was like it was kind of telling, I guess. I don't know whether his skill has improved since then, but he's not really somebody who's like looking after skill improvement, we could say. So given that he's mostly just going to be showcasing stuff, I expect him to like try this mission. If I sent this mission in, he would try it like maybe a couple times and then just upload like, oh yeah, I lost to this mission. Here you go, or whatever. I don't know. Maybe it'll be live. Maps for untested version. Well, I don't know what you mean by testing iQuare because like I was exceedingly busy in the last couple of days. I was sort of talking about it in a bit of a meme fashion, but I accidentally became an investigative journalist and found a bunch of shit about some really unfortunate people. So I had to deal with that for the past 4 days. And yesterday was sort of back to normal, but not really. And then today was significantly more back to normal, although it's about to change when I end the stream because I've got to do some more follow-up shit. Yeah, but what do you mean by bug exploration? Like there's only two things that are holding us back right now. It's the crash that seems kind of inconsistent, like hit or miss, which apparently is related to some interface change. We don't really know. And then there's the lag. And I think you said you had an idea for the lag. I'm not sure if it's been addressed or not. We can't really test for the crashing until the lag is fixed. Like once we fix the lag, it's going to be significantly easier to test for the crashing because the lag slows down our crash tests quite a lot. But if you think that you know what it is, then like or that's causing the crash, then obviously fix the crash first. But I'm just saying, like especially if we're using people's PCs who aren't very powerful, for testing this stuff, then yeah, it's gonna be pretty tough. I would say if you want to prepare versions of the game that have different things disabled to test to see if we get the crash, then you can prepare those versions and push them, and I can test them, or somebody else can test them, like Veek, and we can do like the whole Ollie debug attach and confirm that the crash is if we get a crash, it's actually related, and we'll just see what happens, but. I'm not 100% sure what it even would be, to be honest. I'm assuming there's probably more than one crash, but we just haven't discovered the whatever the other one is that's not identified. Anyway, we've done our work on this map. We've got something of a starting location. I'll definitely spend some more time developing this later on, probably on stream. And that'll do it for today. I've got to bail out, but it was quite a fun stream. Why was I busy? I was investigating men in the esports space. I became a real man temporarily. All right. So I'll be out. Appreciate everybody's time. Wave emoji. See you guys later.